Hey there. Who loves embossing folders? These three I have had for like 10 years. I'm surprised they just haven't degraded into nothingness. So clearly I have some embossing folders and I need to come up with some fun ways to use them other than put them through your machine, run them through, and bada bang, bada boom, you have it embossed. I mean, that's cool. Let's find a way to stretch these guys and play with them even more. So let's get to it. What is that noise outside? All right, so we're gonna do some double embossing for our first technique, but first let me introduce you to my 15-year-old Cuttlebug machine. That's what I'm gonna use in the video. It's well loved. I believe I got it off of eBay. It's the very first embossing machine I've ever gotten. It still works, so that's what I'm using. Comes with A plate, B plates, and C plates. So for whatever machine you're using, you have to figure out what the embossing sandwich is. There are also two different kinds of embossing folders I'm using. This is a 3D embossing folder, and the other one with the dots on it is a regular embossing folder. So for the first technique, we're going to do double embossing. So I've just got a piece of blue cardstock here. I'm going to place that inside the embossing folder. And then for the regular embossing folders, my sandwich is the A plate and two B plates with the little folder right there in the middle. So that's for the regular embossing folders. So for the Cuttlebug, it's the A plate and then the two B plates with the little guy in between. But again, you got to figure out what your die cutting machine is and what the sandwich is. So here's a look at this one. It's so beautiful. It's like dots and stars, and I just love it. But this particular technique is double embossing. So now I'm going to take a 3D embossing folder in that same card panel right there, load it up the same way, but since this is a 3D embossing folder, my plate changed because the 3D is different. So it's my A plate and my C plate. So if you're using two different kinds of embossing folders, don't be alarmed if you have to change your plates up or your sandwiches up a little bit. But anyway, so this was pretty cool, the double embossing technique. So I've got that 3D embossed floral on top of the other embossed images. To bring that 3D look to life, here's another technique you can do, is do a little bit of ink blending. I started off with a lighter color because I wanted to show you, you can keep it kind of monotone if you want to, or you can jazz it up some. So I'm just using a blending brush. Use whatever kind of blending tool that you have. I'm all about using what you have here on this channel. So once I go in and give you a nice look at what it would look like a little subtle, I am going to pull in a deeper color. But you can see how just adding a little bit of ink here and there really makes those 3D images pop up even more. But let's make it pop up even more. So I'm going to use a darker, I'm still keeping it in the same color family, but I'm going in with a very more pigmented color. This is a new color from Catherine Pooler. I will always buy Catherine Pooler inks in every color that come out, just PS. So here's a look at this finished card. Super easy, but I love the look that the embossed images give your cards in the background. It's just neat. Heat embossing is another thing you can do with any kind of embossing folder. I'm just going to use my embossing pad and ink up both sides so you can see what they look like. Whew. So anyway, I've inked both those up on both sides. I put a piece of black cardstock in. This is the 3D embossing folder again. So I'll run that through, and embossing ink is clear, so you might see a little bit of shine, but you really don't see the magic until you start dumping your embossing powder on here. I don't know why this is blurry right here. It will fix itself in a minute, but that's like super annoying. So let me do both sides again. So basically it's the paper, the top side of the sandwich and the bottom side of the sandwich. It made an impression. One is raised and the other one is inset. So I just wanted to show you what both sides look like, because one might, be more to your liking than the other. So I'll go ahead and heat set this with my heat tool. I use some really cool embossing powder. Make sure you use opaque embossing powder on black cardstock. O for opaque, otherwise it won't show up. And here's a look at both sides here. Let's look at that one more time. So again, here's one side. It looks like everything's popped up. And here's like the indented side where everything's kind of sunken in. Two totally different looks. I love it. And here's a look at one of the finished cards I made. I turned this into a little Christmas card. Another technique, you can just spray it. Any kind of sprays you have will work. You just rinse off your embossing folder under some water. Same thing with the embossing ink, by the way. So this is Speckled Egg Distress Oxide ink. Sprayed it. Gonna grab some cardstock. You know the drill. Stick it in the sandwich, run it through the machine. And I went ahead and did both sides again. I just like to show you have options. So this one, obviously, it's more popped up, as you can see. And then here's more inset, recessed, whatever you want to call it, on the back side. So whatever side floats your boat. Here's a look at some still shots before I turned one of them into a card. And if you don't want to spray your embossing folders, you can go ahead and emboss and then spray the panel itself, which is what the card on the right hand side looks like. It's a lot more sprayed over here, so I turned that one into a card versus the other one is a little bit more recessed, almost gives you the look of a letterpress. So it's really whatever look grabs your fancy. Maybe you like emboss and make a bunch of cards. You can also, if you've got any of that wide washi tape or some patterned paper, or even if you have a bunch of strips, you can go ahead and glue your strips down to a piece of cardstock. Anything that you have a nice large background. I'm using this washi tape from Altenew because I've had it forever and never used it. It's like a galaxy print. It's pretty cool as is. And also, there's a lot of pattern papers. You can make this with your watercolors or inks or whatever. Anyway, the sky's the limit. I'm just using washi tape A because I have it, B because it's easy. And you can go ahead and run this through with your embossing folders as well, just like you would anything else. This is the regular embossing folder. It's not 3D. But this is the one with the little dots and stars and whatnot. I thought it would tie in with that galaxy background nicely. And look at, isn't that neat? So for this one, I didn't need to do much. I just adhered a die cut right on the top of it, and there you go. Boom, boom, boom. What if you don't have anything like this? Well, you can make your own colored cardstock. I'm going to use a gel plate here because I have all the gel printing stuff. This is just a gel plate, very inexpensive. I'm going to show you how you can make your own cardstock with the gel plate and some ink. So I'm just brayering on some ink right there from Catherine Pooler. And I'll go ahead and use this as just a piece of copy paper, scratch paper to try to keep my hands clean. I'm just basically transferring the ink that I put on the plate directly onto the cardstock. You can take the brayer directly to your paper and not use the plate. You'll just get a lot more markings from your brayer, but that's okay. Another thing you can do with this gel plate is use some paint. I mean, you don't need to go out and buy expensive paint. You probably got kids' paint, whatever. Dollar store sells paint. This is some like metallic gold paint, so I'm going to make my own metallic gold cardstock. So I just brayered on some paint, taking some regular cardstock, and I'm just going to pick up that paint. This is called a pull. I feel so technical. I'm going to take a pull. Got lots more techniques, so even if you're not into the gel plate, don't worry, I have more, so don't leave. Just wait a second. So I went ahead and brayered on what was left of the paint that was on my brayer to go ahead and get a second print. So I've got a very intense gold background, and then I'm going to have a lighter one. So I got me a twofer. I do love some twofers. And since I already had this Distress Oxide spray out, I thought I'd try it on the plate. Man, wait till you see what I pulled here. I had no idea what this was going to look like. That's the same oxide I sprayed on the embossing folders earlier in the video. Wait till you see this print. I'm like, what? I kept it because I could probably do something with it, but it looks like the coronavirus in blue. Or speckled egg, to be all technical. So here's a look at those three prints. I ran that through one of the 3D embossing folders. Check it. If you don't have a gel plate, you can also take your ink pad and directly swink it. What? You don't know what swinking is? I'll share that at the end of the video. But anyway, you can go ahead and swink it directly onto some white cardstock and make your own colored cardstock. And here's a look at some of the cards I made with those backgrounds there. Simple, cool, bada bang, bada boom. Now, you can stamp with them. So you can take your ink pad. Any ink pad will work. Just make sure it's not a permanent or archival ink pad. Everything I've put on these embossing folders has rinsed off under warm water. So I did this on both sides. Now the one on the left, you can see I left the shape of the oval ink pad intentionally. Take note of that because whatever you see there is usually what's going to transfer to your paper. So I did spritz it once with water. It was like invisible because I did it, but you sure couldn't tell I did on the video here. And then I'm going to run that through my machine here. And here's a look. So you can see this is the side I actually fell in love with. It's all like nice and inset and all that color's pressed into certain parts of the image. And here's the puffed up side, but woo, you can see all my little circles. So what to do, what not to do, unless you like those little circle shapes or the shape of your ink pad showing. And here's what I did to finish off that card. See, stamp with it. So a bunch of cards here. I hope you liked the video. Did you have a favorite? Let me know which card you liked or technique you liked. Swinking. That's what this video is right here. You got to go check it out, learn what swinking is, and I've got loads of techniques. All you need is an ink pad and some paper. So I'll meet you over there.